Are you gonna say welcome?
So, well, am I going to say welcome?
I thought we could take turns, maybe.
Okay. Um, okay. Hi. Welcome, everybody, to our first podcast. This is exciting. My name is Miki, and I'm talking with Will.
Hello, my name is Will. Will Jane.
Will Jade. That's good. I didn't actually say my surname. My name is Miki Zoric. There you go. Full information there. All right. So basically, on this podcast, me and Will are going to talk about a variety of things that we're interested in, which is from the Internet of Things, design, art, video games, movies. We'll be doing some movie reviews, as well as just talking about life-work balance. At the moment, today's topic is what we're going to concentrate on is on the hot topic in NFTs, non-fungible tokens. Okay, and I was taught about NFTs. This is something that I'm relatively new to. I've only discovered a few months ago, and I was told by this man, my very good friend, Will James. So if you could tell us or tell me a little bit more about NFTs, for those people who don't know exactly what they are, what is it?
So basically, an NFT is a way to sell digital artwork. Like that's the simplest way of looking at it. Like I have never seen anything blow up so fast in my life. Like I follow a lot of motion graphics artists on Twitter, and just overnight it was NFTs, NFTs, NFT. Because motion graphics artists are getting excited because now they kind of have a way to sell these digital artworks. And I mean, I've been following a lot of people who it's kind of changed their life because they're now able to sell their digital works. And, um, but they were saying like before, the only way they had to sell art was basically to sell a print, to physically print it out and sell a copy. And, you're not really buying the original, you're just buying a printout. And so they were getting 100 quid, for their art. And now with an NFT is basically a token that it's kind of like a digital proof of ownership. So the same way if you bought a painting, you'd get a certificate that says this painting is genuine. Now you can do that with JPEGs, movie files, digital art. So you're seeing a lot of people doing, rather than just static pictures, you're seeing a lot of movies, like little loops, kind of taking advantage of this digital medium. But yeah, what it means is it's kind of a way for people to sell digital art. And if you really drill down, I mean, this is kind of going into it a bit deeper. But if you really drill down to what it is, it's essentially a receipt that you're buying. Because there's a lot of people are confused because you don't actually own that JPEG.
So yeah, I was going to ask about that in terms of like, yeah, what are you actually buying here? You don't own the property rights to it. Could you make money if you bought that NFT? Could you then like print T-shirts off it?
Yeah, so there was a lot of confusion at first, which was like, oh, if you buy the NFT, then I can just like print it off and it's mine and things. And there are actually sites now that are kind of offering that where you also transfer the royalties, but that's not the case at the moment. What you're essentially buying is a receipt that points to this digital JPEG that you've bought, and it's essentially that JPEG gets stored in the ledger. It's kind of it's chiseled in stone into the
The
ledger.
blockchain.
But what you're actually buying is a file that points to where that is on the ledger, which I guess makes it permanent, and so it makes it feel more permanent. But yeah. So there's a lot of faith, and really what it is a way to support artists that you love. I was confused about it, and this is kind of the way that I've got my head around it. It's like you're seeing these NFTs go for massive money, but there are certain people that I follow and I like on Twitter. And, I would pay a small amount. I'd pay 50 quid, 100 quid for one of their movies just to kind of, as a way of supporting them. So the only difference is that there's other people who have a hell of a lot more money than I do who are putting millions into supporting these artists that they like. So that kind of a way to explain like the craziness of it. It's just essentially people with more money than I have.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to be there is a lot of people with a lot of money out there, a lot of Ethereum in their wallets to spend on these. I mean, it's great. It has changed these artists' lives. The most famous example recently has been Beeple. For $69 million, sold his collection of his first 5,000 everydays for at Christie's auction, and that's, if you may have heard of that, that's what kind of hit the mainstream headlines. I think it kind of brought the NFT world into the mainstream a little bit when people started seeing that kind of figure and that serious happenings around here. And it's, I mean, it's a strange time when you think about it. That the NFT explosion, right? I just thought of this, and I just thought, about, and it did start what in 2017 or something like that.
Yeah, it's been going around longer than
Longer
I
than
thought.
I've,
Anyway,
well,
yeah.
definitely longer than I've heard of it. But it really has, majorly kicked off since last, October, last autumn, and it's like rapidly grown since then. People have sold several artworks for the 3.5 million, and other auctions have gone for similar prices. And then recently, they've just skyrocketed. But during over here, we've had the lockdown and COVID restrictions, and basically not being able to go out, or you can't go to galleries or do anything. Or um, I'm wondering if that's had any kind of like role to play, just as a fun thought in terms of, there's all these people who seem to have made a ton of money on blockchain, on cryptocurrencies, and they are investing in these artists.
Yeah, I think definitely it's the lockdowns played a part in terms of that. I mean, you could say people have got more time to sit on their computer
Well, that's
and
what
look
I
at this
think so.
stuff. But
I think, and artists also to make stuff as well. I think everyone's working from home. A lot of people have recently formed Instagram accounts and Twitter accounts and are really trying. And
yeah,
people are really trying to get onto these sites, and they're just. It seems like even I'm one of these people who've just not really been doing a lot of my art or sharing it or putting the time into like putting it online. And I think, you telling me about it has really kind of put me, kicked me into gear and kicked my ass into be like, actually, hang on, this is an exciting time. This is something that's cool that's going on. And looking at the kind of things that are being sold and being valued made me, you really, pushed me for that. And really, like, thank you for that you got me into that space and got me into that world where it's like, wow, that I think a lot of people are, apart from just trying to make maybe a bit of money or trying to do it, it's a great thing
yeah.
to actually feel valued and to actually want to make stuff. It gave me a drive. And I'm like, regardless of whether I sell NFTs or not, I know that every day now I just want to get better. Like Will said, we are concentrating and gearing up to take ourselves more seriously as artists, NFT creators, and kind of do the graphics and do the work and artwork that I suppose that we haven't created, that's been at the back of our minds and that's we've thought about for a long time and wanted to do, but work, life, everything gets in the way and all these things. But now actually finding the drive and the time to really make a go of it. And I think even focus on smaller projects first. And I think this is something where the NFT space is
Yeah, that's what I
actually.
was going to say. That was a good thing to segue into the first section.
Did you like my
Um,
segue?
I did you like this? Yeah, I mean that's absolutely what I think in terms of these NFTs. That's what it's really kind of lit a fire up everyone's arse is that it's kind of there was a bit of fatigue going on. There was like the whole Instagram thing where everyone was just churning out pictures to put on Instagram, and you'd kind of post them and they would just disappear into the ether. And it really felt like there was almost no way to compete in that. It was like the top Instagram people, the Beeples and all the artists that you love were the people getting all of the likes and all of the clicks, and it
Yeah,
almost didn't matter. It was like shouting into the void. You were just
yeah,
like
yeah.
putting this work up. And with NFTs, I mean, I know currently it's absolutely crazy, and it's crazy with the prices and stuff like that. So, kind of some of that excitement, I'm sure, is going to die down. But it really feels like you're putting it up in a space, essentially like you're putting it up in a museum rather than just putting it on Instagram.
Mm.
Apart from the fact, I mean, there was all those kind of stories about the fact that Instagram essentially owns anything that you post up there as well. So,
So
yeah, I mean,
they own all of
yeah, so
people's artworks.
technically, yeah, I know it's like a real grey area. But yeah, with the NFTs, it felt like because I guess we were talking about this before, but I guess because you have to pay to mint it, and
Mm.
because these sites are kind of exclusive at the moment,
Yeah,
talking about Foundation, which is what we're both on at the moment, but
yeah,
because you have to pay the $80 or whatever it is, it makes it more permanent, and it makes it that you have to actually care about it, and you have to start viewing it not as a disposable thing. and actually something that you're proud of because it's kind of there forever.
Well, yeah, it's because it's now you're kind of putting a price tag on it, and doing that kind of daily artwork where we just do it and put it out there, and it's great. It's great for everyone to see. But a lot of this is it's a way of digital artists actually making some money from all that stuff that they have been doing for that whole time. And a lot of the ones that have been making huge amounts actually are some of the ones that have been doing it for a very long time, and they've been doing it for free. And it seems like some people think, oh wow, like Beeple, he's done it for 13 years every day. He's become,
That's still nuts. I still can't believe
it's still insane, but he's amassed a huge following and the discipline, of that man. Well done to him. The discipline to go that and to do that and to improve his skill to the point where every day he can create almost, not every day he does, but almost a masterpiece, something that looks like a really fine bit of surreal art, sci-fi surreal art. And when the news hits that he makes 69 million, which is ridiculous. I mean, he admits that he knows that's.
I don't know what the stats are, but it's like one of the top 50 selling artworks ever, isn't it? Like I think it's like top 30, maybe highest art sale ever. Not just digital art.
From people who are living as well, he's probably the top few actually. Like those artworks from like dead artists. So, fair play to him. That is a ludicrous price. Not that he needs all of that for his everydays, but for example, he admits that. But, fair play, that came about from a long time. And it seems to me that the space is paying out huge amounts of money for these big people, these big Instagram stars with huge followings who've been around for a long time. But there is a space there for unknown artists to make.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with that crazy Beeple price is that basically the guy who bought it was saying that the only reason, well, not the only reason, but one of the reasons he paid that much money is because it's kind of a major turning point in art. And it's not necessarily about the actual image. It's about, that was essentially the first digital artwork to make serious money, to kind of really cement the fact that this NFT thing has changed the art world at the moment.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of changed, not just changed the art world, it's changing, I feel like it's actually something quite big. Like it's changing a lot of things. This is something I was thinking about, like talking about going back to like everyday artists, like you and me and other people, just being able to make a little bit of money selling NFTs and doing that could potentially, change the way that we work. That because a lot of us that do work as motion designers, and a lot of people that end up in the industry will be working in advertising and marketing. Or if they go into the film and television industry, or they go into the television industry, they work on things that they don't necessarily like. They don't necessarily enjoy. A lot of their talents are put into things on TV shows that they wouldn't watch, and designing ads for products that they wouldn't buy. And here's something that is a platform where it's like, well, you do have to, like you said earlier, you do have to pay a large cost for minting it. So it makes you think twice. Because you're doing it yourself. No one's asking you. You haven't got a client paying you to do it. You're actually putting it out there and you're saying, this is my idea. This is my value. This is why I think it's valuable. I want to see if does someone else think so too.
I mean, it's also cements it as well, though. It's like if you do a daily or you do a tutorial and you put that on Instagram, you can almost always redo it. It's never final in the same way.
Yeah.
Like I've had it where I put up an NFT and then you start looking at it and you go, oh crap, like I could have done that lighting a bit better. And it's like it's actually kind of like burnt into the ledger, the crypto ledger, like forever.
Yeah, it's a fact. Yeah, like Will J did this.
Yeah, so it's like carved into stone. It's like very different to that kind of disposable Instagram thing where you could just delete it, you could just post it again, you could say, oh, I did some more work on it. Here's another one. It's like,
that's a good point, and it is like that. I guess, you are putting in. I mean, maybe that's a good thing as well. You are kind of, by having something like that and letting go of something even. Not that all of the artists let go of it. I've seen a lot of like copies of things, but that just having something and it's there, it's minted, it's done. That was that piece. And like you said, you don't go around slightly altering it with a new tutorial that you've learned, but you just go and move on to something else. Like that was done. And maybe that's kind of a good thing, a good way of like training, like Beeple, like that kind of thing. It because it does go back to that almost that everyday thing, even though it's completely different. in that thing that he did every day, they're like, each one is a throwaway. You know, it's like, doesn't matter. I'm not going to perfect it.
But that's it. The art is not each one. The art is what I actually liked about it when I looked at it is the fact that you can kind of see that journey that he's taken. You can see like in the top left is the scribbles and the black and white, and as it flows through, they get like better and better. Like that to me it's about the time and about the effort and about the days rather than each individual one. Yeah, I mean, my thing on that is though, like I've started to almost recently start to like criticize it. Like it's ridiculous because he's, just sold a picture for like 79 million, but he does create a formula. Do you know what I mean? What he did is, and he fully admits it, is that he kind of downloads model packs, he downloads asset packs, he downloads textures and everything, and so his artwork is more about bringing all that together and doing the composition.
Yeah,
which
modeling.
like is which is a whole argument in itself, because he's saying, what is the point of modeling a chair when you can just buy one or download one? And that's something like I've always struggled with as well, and that's like a big regret I have in my kind of creative endeavors, is that even back in the day when we were creating music and things like that, it was always like, oh no, Aphex Twin, he makes his own, snare hits and he makes his own drum sounds, and like everything you have to like, no, you can't just download a sample pack. You have to like, handcraft everything. And there's that classic meme about, you have to make the skins for your drums, and like, haven't got any time to make music because I'm too busy herding goats or whatever. Classic meme. But so I think he's like absolutely taken that and just gone, I'm not going to model everything. Like, what's the point in modeling everything now in this day and age? Like, everything's been done already, like 5 times.
Well, I think that's a really good point. And to be honest, I've been of that opinion and that kind of thinking the whole time. I don't because I guess because I've not had the skills. I'm developing them now at the moment, but back in the day, just not having enough of the skills to be able to just model anything I wanted. So I would think like, well, no, I'm like, I can set the nice lighting up. I can get some of the bits that I want, and I can put them together in an interesting way that can create a nice look or a nice something without me actually having to go and from the ground up and recreate the wheel. Because it is true, we live, I think he epitomizes that kind of age we actually live in, with a lot of art and and a lot of things that we live in the age of recycling things and of basically remixing. And I mean, I've said somewhat carelessly a few times, like, oh, that's, the world ended in the year 2000. Nothing new has come out since then.
Yeah.
So we've just, it's just all remixes from then on. And I could like almost pick everything that's come out since and from that year, from the turn of the millennium. And I can find you something that it's basically a clone.
Actually, that's something else that I quite like to talk about, because that's something that I've been getting quite passionate about recently, is because basically I follow a lot of motion graphics artists on Twitter, and every now and again there'll be someone who'll come out and say, oh, look how disgusting it is that this person has like copied my artwork, plagiarized my artwork. And I'll have a look, and like obviously there are clear cases where they've actually, you can tell when they've laid that footage on top and they've done, exactly the same timing and things like that. That is obviously, out of order. But there are times when it's like, it's just a shape and some colours, and, they've done their own interpretation on it. And I find it quite hard to see where that line is, because I'm like a massive hip hop fan. And, so I almost think allow it. I mean, I think you do need to have, a certain amount of copyright, and you shouldn't just let people be able to like download something and reuse it. But there's an awful lot of remixing and editing, and everything comes from somewhere. Like every idea has been done in a way, and every idea comes from somewhere. And I just think sometimes people get a bit hung up on the fact that it has to be 100% unique, and you can't be influenced by anybody almost.
Well, yeah, and I think that's impossible, really, because to create anything, to create art, you are influenced by life. You don't sit there locked in a room your whole life without any experiences, meditating away, dreaming art up. It comes from your actual life experiences that are influenced by everything, all the other people, everything you've seen, everything you've done. And so to look at art, there are some artists who have that thing, oh, well, I just create, I don't want to look at art, I don't look at Pinterest and other things, I just want to create deeply from my mind. Well, actually, whatever you do come up with, you have somehow seen it somewhere before. You are coming up with that, and there isn't. There's a. I don't know who said it. Was it? Might be completely wrong here. I'm going to say it's George Lucas, but
Right.
had a quote saying that idiots copy and geniuses steal. And
Yeah.
that, by what he meant by that is, like what you were just saying, if there is a blatant rip-off and an imitation of something that required it's kind of taken the carbon copy of it and it's just basically imitating it and doing it badly.
Right.
And there's the other one that's basically taken something that was seen in that original piece, some feeling, some moment, some kind of understanding, and then riffed upon. And that's how any genre of music or anything's come up with. You take something, you kind of jive on it, you move on, and you create something new.
So where's the line? Where do you think the line is in terms of being influenced? Do you think it's okay to release an artwork and kind of say this is influenced by this person?
Well, I mean, yes and no. If it's completely if it's exactly copying their design, or if it's something that's maybe looks like that person might have designed, in which case that's different, But then it does cross the line with even famous art. Like I've seen a lot of these. Have you seen, to go on to some of the current ones on Foundation, or the ones I saw maybe just recently, the furry series of famous paintings, like the furry Mona Lisa.
Oh yeah, with like hair coming out the canvas.
Yeah, okay. So there's clearly, I know that person, I'm pretty sure they did not paint the original Mona Lisa. So they can't really claim copyright to that, but it is a famous painting. And, they put some fur on it, and it's, okay, cool. Yeah, it's a furry Mona Lisa. I think it did quite well. It sold, I'm not sure for how much, but it did quite well. You can look it up. And there's a whole series of these things. So my question is that, and there's a lot of this, that's one example, but there's a lot of this with other characters, famous
Buzz
people.
Lightyears and all that.
I've seen Buzz Lightyears. I've seen definitely Beeple was responsible for a few of those. I've seen Donald Ducks
Woody.
and Daffy Duffs. Disney characters and all sorts. And things that are basically they riff on them, and they'll take Daffy Duck and then put like a spliff in his mouth, and it's and he looks wired.
Deep.
And it's like and it's like, okay, that's selling on the popularity of this famous Disney icon, on this character. And I see so many of these things, and I've even seen some stuff sold on there with the Coca-Cola logo somewhere on this bottle.
See, I was going to say, I think there's a day of reckoning coming, apparently, about all that stuff. It's like, I don't know whether they'll make them actually take it off the blockchain, but I think the lawyers are going to come calling, basically, as soon as they wake up and realise what's going on.
That's the thing. I think it didn't matter when it was on Instagram and it was free, and it was basically great. It's free publicity, right? And in this argument, sure, I mean, maybe even, Disney or whatever, or Coca-Cola. Well, Disney would probably have a bit more of a problem than Coca-Cola bottle showing up, depending where that bottle was and what it was doing. But Disney having their characters basically riffed on and looking like dope fiends or users, or made into
for me, I think that is crossing a line in a way, because for me, when you take Buzz Lightyear, it's not really doing anything that exciting with it or interesting with it. It's like putting him next to a bin with some beer bottles. I mean, it's not. It's fairly lazy.
I mean, sometimes Beeple doesn't have time. He does a lot of everydays. So
that's what I mean. It's funny. I'm just totally criticising him. He's knocked it out in 2 hours, after dinner. Yeah. But some of these ones on Foundation where they're doing NFTs, it's not. You're using that character Disney has created for Insta shock, or not shock. It gives you something for free to kind of get you started. It almost doesn't matter what you do with him. You can pour goo on him, and it's it's deep, because it's the character that everyone loves. And I think that does kind of cross a line for me, where it's not adding enough. It's not it's a lot harder to take someone's artwork and do something inspired by it than it is to just download a model. It's not, because they don't change that model at all, really.
I think a lot of this stuff, I think Banksy is responsible for influencing a lot of, I think, lazy artists and kind of things, where basically this trend of take a pop culture icon and put it in a weird situation, inverse it, like the Pulp Fiction guys with a couple of bananas instead of guns.
Oh,
You
okay.
know, um, classic Banksy. You know, but you know, there's just been, you know, things like that where it's just, yeah, instant deep. You know, or had to make something epic. You know, Beeple's great at this. Just put loads of tiny people in there. You know, like, you just any random shape, right? I've seen a lot of artists do this, and I'm to be honest, it's fine. I like it. I'm probably going to do some myself. I'm
You
just going
have
to go
done it
right.
yourself, haven't you?
I'm gonna do more of that. I'm gonna make it more epic.
Yeah.
Like the people are gonna be so tiny, you're gonna think it's a pixel, and I'm like, no, that's just how epic it is.
So, what do you think the kind of future of these NFT marketplaces are? Like, how do you think it's going to affect? Forget like the big times that we're talking about now, but how's it going to affect just general artists? You know, small time artists. You reckon?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I had this thought the other day. Maybe I was kind of got a bit overexcited about it, uh, but I did think that after recently, so a little bit background, I had the fortune of selling a few NFTs on Foundation. My first one particularly went for a decent price, and I managed to sell a few after, and I thought, wow, I'm on a roll. This is
Yeah,
great.
this is it.
This is it. You know, and I think I can still definitely be selling some and minting them, but I feel like I do see the market going down at the moment. Like those crazy overinflated prices are dying out a little bit. But I did think, I was wondering, that's not so bad because you don't want this bubble to burst. I was thinking, actually, it's good if it kind of comes down a little bit because you don't want it just to implode on itself and crash, because I would like for this to actually stick around. And imagine if it is a way, and people are really, really into this, as a way of buying and supporting artists in a way that if you like their work, then you can support them buy through these NFTs, and you get to actually own something. And then as we get into the future, we move into things and we have like these little digital displays that are really easy to make, or move into the augmented reality world where we have like headsets and we can actually have that piece. You can have that Beeple in your house, massive, like lovely, in a thing or whatever. And I was thinking then, you know, people will really be into it, and then that will give people, the artists, a chance to just make a normal living. I'm talking like the guys who sit on the street doing like portraits of people in town centres, you know, and things like that. You know, you're not making silly money, but you're making money to basically decent enough to support yourself and not have to go back to the other work and do less of the other industries where we're supporting things like marketing and advertising, which is where people like designers have to go to, and artists, in order to get money. Most of their clients are in that field. And then we don't, of course, there has to be marketing, there is advertising everywhere and stuff like that. But really, it's a way of people being able to get away from that, to get away from the client work, put more time in to artworks. And then what would happen is the level would just get better, because you're then putting out what you want to put out. And you won't have the restrictions necessarily of like the client work that you've had before. And then because it will get better, everyone else will want to get better. Like it will increase, it will raise the bar for the standards, I think, of some of the art.
I did hear from, because I've got my wife's in recruitment, like I did hear that it's really hard for anyone to get a 3D modeler at the moment because everyone's off doing NFTs. Like it was hard enough. Apparently, it was hard enough with the whole pandemic, and everyone's doing a lot more video work and stuff like that. But also, since NFTs, like you just cannot find for love nor money a 3D modeler animator. Like no one at all is left because everyone's doing NFTs.
That's what I did. I said no to work. I said, sorry, I'm busy. I've got stuff to do.
See, I did want to ask that to you as well, because I've read a lot of stuff recently where essentially like agencies are forming, or like small companies are forming, and they're paying 3D modelers, artists, to create NFTs for them. And there's kind of a whole nother conversation on that around like what people should charge. Like if you're hired to make an NFT for someone, should you just charge your day rate and then that NFT sells for £1 million? So like there's a lot of kind of calls for artists to write into the contract that they get a percentage of the final sale and stuff like that. Like people are very worried that we're kind of going to get exploited again like where it was a way for small-time digital artists to finally make some money they deserve. Now it's like, no, now the big companies are
Yeah,
getting in and
yeah,
hiring up all these motion graphics artists, and now you're just going to get your regular day rate, and we're going to
yeah,
take the
yeah.
money.
Oh God, oh
Like,
my God, that's you know what?
yeah,
That's a nightmarish thought, and one that's probably, as with everything, as with every industry, and this is the thing with art, the marketing industry and those kind of, and the advertising, they've been all over it and have been exploiting it for decades. And I think it was Vans. It was in a Vans website. I was looking for some skateboard trainers, and they had a a section on their site where it just had art that were made by artists and designers and random things that they were displaying there. And the slogan that they were using was "Create art, not ads." And so they were being anti-ad,
nice.
and I was like, "Ooh,
Yeah,
cool, edgy." And but yet, that was thought about by by a circle of a round table of
yeah,
marketing people around there, being like, "Yeah, we're going to do." And it's not the
yeah.
first time. There's been anti-advertising campaigns for you. I can't think of exactly one that comes to mind right now, but I know it's not the newest
Yeah.
idea, but if someone's gonna get their greedy fingers on this pie, then for sure it's gonna be those people, the
Yeah, the same people
same
doing
people
the
that
ads.
all of these guys are trying to get away from. Basically,
Yeah. That's a tragic. See, I did want to. That leads me to. I did want to read about this tweet, which I found interesting. Which is so there's. I don't know if you know EJ Hassenfratz, who does School of Motion. So he put a tweet up the other day, which says you're in the NFT space, and it's like a questionnaire, and it says have sold a ton, sold a fair amount, sold one or two pieces, or
yeah,
sold nothing. So he's got 510 votes. So 71% of people have sold nothing.
right,
Right, 16% have sold one or two, 8% have sold a fair amount, and only 3% have sold a ton of
right.
NFTs. So
It's
it
quite it's
is.
tough. Statistic 70.
Yeah. So 80% have sold nothing, but I mean that's similar in any kind of market, really.
Um, but I mean, I wonder if it can work out like that. So far, it's been all right, and I wonder if it can work out in a way where you can keep it sustainable. I think you'd have to
Yeah.
keep putting stuff out.
I
You'd have to
mean,
keep working, and that would be a great thing. Just to sort of finish off on what I was saying
yeah,
it's kind of like democratizing um, art. It's
yeah,
basically saying it's like platforms like Foundation aren't just galleries for displaying people's work, but it's actually, if you think about it, it's decentralized funding for artists.
yeah,
And that's it's like, like the Kickstarters and the crowdfundings of the day, where it isn't down to the people with the big money and the corporations that are going to decide what you're going to spend your time on and what you're going to produce in the end. Because that's usually where it goes. It goes to the highest bidder. Well, if right now the highest bidder, or even the close enough bidder, kind of like we'll do it for less money, but if we could just do it for that, I think
yeah,
I'd rather do that. I think that's kind of given away an opportunity where actually better things can come out and people can do the things that they want more.
yeah. I
And
mean, I hadn't actually thought about this before, but when you were talking about that, I think there's actually some parallels to what happened with games as well, computer games. It's kind of you had the triple A's, which I guess would be the Tate galleries and the big websites that sell artwork. And now what Foundation is essentially a platform like Steam that is putting smaller artists' work in front of people's eyes. Do you know what I mean? It is a marketplace. It is all about exposure. It's kind of like the App Store or whatever. It's a place where you can bring a lot of people in to see your art, and then it doesn't matter who you are or what company you're from or the fact that because you no longer need that massive marketing budget just to get people to even see it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a great place, and it is on when you were talking about on places like Foundation as well, where it's a little bit more reserved, and the gates aren't quite currently open to
Yeah,
everyone out there, and the minting costs are quite high. That it does make you think you can't just flood it with stuff like
yeah,
YouTube got flooded with so much content, with so many things,
yeah,
with so much. So did Instagram. Instagram got flooded with so much crap. There's so much stuff that you have to wade through it. And
Yeah.
these are almost like curated. So it's like it's happening. It's like a meta. It's happening within itself. So these are curated places to see a select bit of art. The artists that
Yeah.
want to display their work are willing to mint it. And then you've got collectors looking at their collections, and some of the people that I've sold mine to, and looking actually where it fits. And some of them are actually, I can see similar types of artwork. They're collecting things that are like that. They have these geometric or infinite kind of loops. That's what they're into. That's their collection. So that when they go to, perhaps, I don't know what their plan is, they like it, they enjoy it, they're supporting artists, or they think that, they are like art collectors. They have a collection so that when a buyer comes along in the future, they can say, this is my collection of infinite artworks, or this is my collection of this style of CryptoPunks. I have eight CryptoPunks. So you can see that it's actually
See, I think that was
how it works.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was reassuring with yours. Like when I put a NFT up, and I don't know whether we set the price too high or not. I mean, we were talking about that the other day, is whether going in at 0.1 kind of allows collectors to make a bit of money and allows them to, have a bit of wiggle room on that, and then you kind of get into a bidding war. Because when you put your artwork up for 0.1, I was like, oh, I want that, and I actually loved it. And I think that's something I wanted to talk about as well. Is it seemed like it was only famous people or people with massive Instagram followings and stuff like that were getting the bids. But then when you put yours up, and no offense, it was like a brand new Twitter account, you didn't have many followers and stuff yet.
Yeah, totally fresh.
And I think with that particular artwork, it was just great. Do you know what I mean? It was just something that there was just something about it that was great, and I think people just saw that, and so it's quite reassuring that and we're talking about, it started off fairly small stakes. Obviously, there's quite a few people who were like, "Oh, that's really nice. I'm going to put in my 0.1, my 0.2." And stuff like that. And then it did. I mean, it got into a bit of a bidding war, and then it went for a nice tidy sum. But it was kind of reassuring that it was purely down to the fact that it was a nice bit of art.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. I mean, I thought so as well. I thought that, not that I thought it was a bit, I mean, I obviously did. I put it out there, but no, I had that same idea thinking, I was like, wow, I've got, people have a chance. I've got a chance. This is why I was thinking all of this, because I didn't know really how well or how quickly, and I was surprised that, it was like 5 or 6 different people bid on that first one.
Yeah.
And since then, it's definitely slowed down. And I was wondering, I have a lot of things that I've been following on Twitter accounts that people do like first pieces of someone. Not necessarily that it's just the first piece, but they sort of tend to do well. Or but it did make me think, actually, hey, this is something that people are just going out there, and they're not just counting on it's a famous GIF, from the 90s. And sure, those people have made a ton, right, in the early days, and they're the ones who've come on and they've basically sold their internet fame or whatever that was in a way. But definitely, I feel like new artists have a chance. I've seen stuff out there, and I've looked at the artist page, and they've got very not huge amounts of followers, and not recent Twitter accounts that they've realized they have to make. I mean, I kind of avoided Twitter for ages, and I thought, okay, well, I have to get on it now, because it seems to be the platform for when you're talking about a lot of this stuff. I mean, you got me on it, so but. And I think that's okay. I think, okay, I was like that. And I look at this person, I'm like, that's okay. And that's good art, and I'm finding stuff. I'm like, oh, that's sold. And it did okay. And it didn't do, silly, it hasn't got silly prices, but it got something decent. Yeah. And
see, this is what I hope is going to happen with these NFTs, is that, I have a lot of artwork around my house, and, I can't afford to buy, really nice famous art and stuff like that. But I love a lot of these NFTs, and I love a lot of the people on Twitter and their work and things like that. And what I hope is that as these digital frames get more and more popular, that, especially with the digital frame, you're going to want, 10, 20 different artworks on there. And so I would, there's a lot of art that I would buy, and I would like to buy, to have on my walls, and basically to keep that fresh, and you'd buy more stuff. You wouldn't just have one picture like you do now, because you can swap them out so easily. I mean, I've got a frame TV where you can put art, but it's all kind of tied into this subscription model and stuff like that, and it's all like famous artworks and things. And I think you probably can put like JPEGs and things like that, but I'm pretty sure I've seen frames now where it's actually tied into. I think it's Nifty does one. They've got their own frame where it actually kind of guarantees that it is an NFT on the chain. You can't just put any JPEG on there. It's like a connected device that basically pulls in your gallery from Nifty and
Right.
displays it on your wall, which I think is really exciting because then it's kind of validating it. It's not just you can't just load it up with JPEGs. It's like it has to be an NFT and it only pulls in blockchain artwork, which I think is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that is great, and it does give it that sense of validation. I guess that's been a topic on, I guess, a lot of people's minds is what's it worth if I can own and I can download this JPEG,
Yeah,
and I think I saw a I don't even know what it was. Was it on? It might have been on Twitter. A video someone said titled "Here's me stealing a
yeah,
$69 million piece of art," and they go to the
yeah,
Beeple collections, first 5,000 days image. They save it, they zoom in on it, and they show that it's full resolution, and they can just zoom in and look at everything, and they're just looking around.
yeah,
And they basically just then screenshot it and then save it to a little file,
yeah,
and they're like, yeah, and then they put it up on the wall. And I think that guy, obviously whoever put that up, they were, trying to be funny. But it did make people kind of, that question, like people who do think like that, like what is the difference? It's like
yeah.
what that person can have that high resolution image, just as easily as the person who bought it. But the other person who bought it just knows deep down that they that they bought it and they own it, and it gives a sense of ownership. Okay,
Yeah,
so which I understand, and it means that you also contributed to that person's life through that artwork, and you said, no, I did this, I got this, and
yeah,
it's a legit. Okay, this isn't like someone says you can have a print of a Mona Lisa, okay, on your wall, like I've got behind me, this Alex Gray poster of this beautiful print, Overlord. I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, lovely bit of artwork. It's not the original Alex Gray. I don't come in when people come around to my house and I go, by the way, did you see my poster on the wall?
yeah.
I don't really talk about it. It's just there. Whereas if I actually had the real piece, I think, yeah, definitely. I'd be proud of it. I'd look at it. I'd probably
Yeah.
like stroke it and admire it and
But
smell
I
it.
think there's a potential for that, right? If people recognise the frame that you had on the wall in the same
Mm,
way that people recognise an iPad as an iPad, if you knew that that was a nifty frame,
yeah.
then you would know that that artwork was an original NFT, and you wouldn't have to tell them. I mean, you wouldn't have to go, "Oh, look at my check out my this is an original, by the way," because they would know. And I think
Yeah.
as sad as that is, I think they that will take off. That's my prediction. Do you know what I mean? I think they will take off because you'll want people to know without actually having to tell them. Do you know what I
Who do
mean?
you think's going to make these? Who do you think's going to be
Well,
the?
I know. I mean, Nifty's already making their own one, so I think Foundation will make one. I mean, there are. I was looking at another one today. I didn't want to say because I can't remember what it's called, but it's something like moldable or mobile or something. There's some really nice. It looks very similar to that pitch frame you got. Very nice black frame, simple NFTs, and it makes it look more like a painting you'd buy in a gallery, where it's like one of those kind of trendy frames, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like recessed. So I think you're going to see a lot of those frames coming out now, and kind of
I mean,
really
that,
nice matte ones, matte screens and stuff.
yeah. I mean, I think that'll be interesting. I think that's something. To be honest, because you've seen all those like cheap like digital
Yeah,
frames that they've come from made in China and stuff like that,
yeah,
and they've just been around for years. Or these like, or the ones that my personal favorites you find in some like really kitsch like restaurants,
yeah.
where you've got like a waterfall.
Oh, they're beautiful. I always love them. I always wanted to have one of those. You're not allowed. It's like, no, you're not allowed.
I know you can only if you have a restaurant, only if you're
Yeah.
like selling it in some,
Or the nice night cityscape with the twinkling lights.
oh,
Oh,
the
classic.
classic.
Yeah.
So things like that are like it does. They did look a little bit cheesy and a little bit bad because of the types of things they were, but it did make me think like we are living in this this age. We are in the 2021. It's like, why do we not have these
Yeah.
moving images and bits of art, that are there? It's like we should have.
Yeah, see, I think we're on the edge of a massive technological breakthrough in terms of that. I mean, not to overstate it, but I think, yeah, it's exactly like you say. Like at the moment, a lot of these frames, just like your TV screen, are shiny. And as I say, I've got it's like a Samsung frame TV, and you're supposed to put these artworks on there, but it doesn't look nice. So I mean, it's cool, but it doesn't look like a painting that you've got on your wall because it's got that like backlit glow on it.
Yeah.
Because they want it to have, it's like it always looks on and it just looks like a screen and it looks cheap. I think you almost want it to like not be visible if it's dark. Do you know what I mean? You don't want it to be like radiating. It just doesn't look as quality. And I think we're going to see, just like how kind of the Amazon Kindles and stuff have flat screens that don't reflect and things that makes it look like paper. I think we're going to get a lot more of those, and that's going to blow up. I reckon.
All right, so we've talked about Foundation a lot. That's our experience with it. We're both selling pieces on there. But what other sites are the ones, like we mentioned, like Rarible? Can you talk about that and some of the other ones that are out there? Like, what's the difference basically, and where can people buy these NFTs?
Yeah, so you've kind of got different levels of exclusiveness. So you've got one of the top, well, maybe the top two would be Maker's Place. So there's Maker's Place, then you've got Nifty Gateway. So they're kind of very exclusive. They're not even invite based. It's like you just get approved by the people who own the website. So they're kind of the smallest. Then Foundation was quite niche. And that is now opening up. So that's foundation.app. So that's now becoming more and more open. But that worked on an invite system. And then below that, you have kind of Mintable, which I think Mintable is quite interesting because they start getting into different methods of minting. Whereas Foundation's Ethereum, there's Wax Coin and other coins that kind of lower those mint costs. And then below Mintable, you've got Rarible. And then essentially OpenSea, which is, it's kind of like an aggregator for every site. So if you put something on Foundation, it will also go on OpenSea. So OpenSea is kind of sometimes where people would start off if they can't get an invite to one of these other sites. But yeah, I just wanted to outline where you can go to find these NFTs if you're interested in it. So should we do the exit theme tune? It's a roundup. It's a round. No. Anyway, so thank you very much. Like, if you've made it, what do they say? If you've made it this far through the podcast, then you're crazy. Thank you very much for listening.
So that was fun. I had fun talking about all that stuff, NFTs, especially. I hope you learned something about it. We're
our first ever podcast. I think
it's our first ever podcast. I don't know. I think it was fun. I hope we did well. If you got this far, then yeah.
Let us know somehow.
So yeah, we're still figuring this out, but we are going to have places to open up the chat and let us know.
Yeah, we're going to have a website. We're going to have t-shirts.
All of it. NFTs.
Clips on YouTube. NFTs.
Yeah.
Maybe we should mint this episode.
So by the way, I mean, shall we say where we can check out? Should we plug ourselves on?
I'll plug you. I'll tell you what, I'll plug you. So Miki, you should check out Miki's artwork on Foundation, which is foundation.app/masterpupil.
And you should check out Will's artwork as well on Foundation, which is also at foundation.app/William.
And all the usual channels, Twitter, Google it. Do you know what I mean? Google it, you'll find us.